because of where we're at technology-wise, I am more confident to go start my own company.
Welcome to the Cowles Ventures Podcast.
All right, let's get into it.
Well, cool. Well, first, thank you so much for coming on, taking some time to talk to me and share your story and all that. So I know that, busy people and you probably have a million other things on your plate. But if you just start who you are and what you're working on and kind of what has brought you to the spot that you're in, that would be a great place to start.
Yes. The origin story. Yeah. Is that what we call it?
Yeah, the origin story.
Yeah. So, it's been, I think as probably most people you have on here, it's a pretty interesting journey when you look back on all of it. I think that, the most interesting piece is I never, desired or sought to get into technology. It's just one of those things that happened as life progresses there. But I don't know how far we want to start, but really it was graduate college, Whitworth grad, back when it was a college.
There you go.
Whitworth University now, and definitely enjoyed my time at Whitworth and very formative for me there. But actually came out of that, wanted to do law school. I think I was listening to an episode where you're talking about such a low percentage of people who go to college for something and actually end up doing that.
I really wish I knew the stat because I think it's higher than you think. It's 30%, I want to say. Something like that.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy. But then I just talked to someone the other day that was doing something in marketing or I think it was marketing, which is have a business sustainability ESG theory.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with that, but here we are.
Yeah, so I was looking to law school. I actually interned with a local lawyer here in Spokane.
Okay.
And he basically said, look, man, you should take a break. You should really figure out if you want to practice law.
Yeah.
And so I did, because I took the LSATs and I scored okay, but I wasn't feeling the desire to go back to more schooling.
And that's a smart move, because I know a lot of my friends are lawyers, just graduated about a year or two ago from law school, and I know a lot of them that are you get a year in or 2 years in, and they're I don't know, but then you're too deep. The student loans are stuck up, and you're there's really no other option at this point.
I know.
What are you gonna do?
You gotta go. Now, looking back, I think if I would have done, I would have enjoyed being a judge. I think that I would have probably gone that route.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress a little bit. So anyway, my wife was a year younger than me, so she had transferred from Whitworth. We met here. She transferred to Seattle Pacific University, so we ended up in Seattle.
Okay.
And actually for the first year, I did a music festival for a gentleman by the name of Luis Palau, who was an evangelist. So I did that, and really that was my first startup experience. Because the model then was they would get an invitation from a city, so the invitation from Seattle, and they would legitimately build an office and a team from ground zero. They would send one person in, that person would hire everybody. They still had some help from corporate, if you will, but they hired everybody.
Jeez.
And so when I think about it, that was my first startup, and I had a great time. It was super fun. I was a young guy, so I got to work with youth and churches and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I'm sure you guys do, so many different things, too. I don't know how big the team was, but at that, you're kind of just okay, you sound good, and you sound good, and you sound good. It's I know you have a background in this, but I'm actually going to have you do something completely different.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah. Well, first day was 9/11 of 2001. So that was an interesting first day. I remember driving, and we didn't even have an office. I was meeting my boss at a hotel. There was two of us. So that was a very interesting first day. Meeting in a hotel, and then again, you get to go find office space. So to your point, doing everything.
Yeah.
Right? Find office space, doing all this kind of stuff. And then we ran it for a year, did the festival, super successful in Marymoor Park, a few 100,000 people. And then I could have continued that and moved to some other city and done that, but my fiance, who we ended up getting married that summer, said, I don't really want to do that.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So that was my first good decision, and listened to my wife and said, okay, we'll think about something else. So at that point, I was just, hey, I need to get a gig. So I ended up with a technology company in Redmond, Washington, just doing customer support. And that kind of evolved into inside sales, which then evolved into eventually an outside sales or field sales role. I did kind of in there in the middle, kind of think about getting into more management pieces of things, but I will say, a taste of doing field sales and just loved it. Loved the freedom, love being out there with people.
And now field sales, can you define that?
Yeah, that's fair. So usually although this is back in the day, so we had an inside outside, now virtual, like what is field sales? But that's a good qualifier. So inside sales usually means you were more focused on smaller accounts. You were literally at a desk calling, doing things like that. Field sales was you were usually in a defined geography. A lot of times work from home, not necessarily, but you were in larger accounts, you were going out seeing customers. So inside versus field or outside sales. So my first opportunity to do that, quote, outside was the Midwest. Got to go travel, do a little bit. Shout out to Andrew Malcor, who was my outside rep who took me out there. I remember I got in my hotel and he had a little note for me at the front desk, and it had like some dollar bill, like, hey, kind of welcome to field sales, so it's your first dollar type of thing. So he welcomed me well out there, but did that and really loved it and said, okay, I'm not going to really focus on the management. I want to do this field sales thing. So as things happened, I got an opportunity. We were living in Seattle. My wife is here in the Spokane area, or from here. Her parents are here. That's actually what brought us back. Okay. But and then my folks were still in Portland. My sister was there. Okay. And as we looked at doing a family, we were like, when we first got married, we were living in downtown Seattle, Queen Anne. Nice. Great. My wife was working downtown. I was having to make a commute across the river, but that was fine. Yeah. And then we got to go buy a house. We got to do, right? That's what crazy, like no interest mortgages, interest only mortgages and everything like that. So like, sure, we'll go buy a house. So we had to go all the way up north into Seattle. Once we got up there, we're like, this is okay, I guess. Yeah. So when we started looking at having a family, we wanted to be closer to one set of parents. And anyway, that led us to Portland because my wife at the time was not ready to move back to Spokane. So all that to say, got into field sales. That has been a great career for me. I was able to get with a couple of startups that were a couple hundred people, and grew, went public, then got acquired by larger organizations. I found that I enjoyed kind of that smaller startup feel. Now again, not true startup, but again, VC backed. So I've done that a few times in my career. Definitely the first two were the most successful. Okay. A company called Data Domain that got bought by EMC, and then another company called Nimble Storage that got by Hewlett Packard Enterprise, or HP. So some more household names. Yeah. So and then as kind of things progressed in technology, security, cloud became more of an emphasis. And so I was looking like, do I want to it was kind of what we call more infrastructure. And so looked at kind of getting more of the security bent. So again, made the move to, Rubrik and Palo Alto to kind of cut my teeth there. And, just as kind of different opportunities came, I did at the point move into management for field sales, and I definitely really enjoyed that and kind of wanted to continue on that track. Yeah. So that led me to make a few different moves and decisions. And then COVID hit and everything changed for everybody. And I found that I wanted to, because most of the things that I was doing were all very tool-based or solution-based, and they were more like I got a hammer, where's my nail? Right. And I think just kind of enjoyed talking to customers. Even when I sold, I always like having different types of technology and bigger conversations. Let's talk about solutions. So I was just like, people really need more services and consulting, not just a tool, because, it doesn't matter what industry. Hey, you get this thing and it's going to change your world. Yeah. Probably doesn't, but, it probably hopefully makes it better. So that's when I moved to boutique regional systems integrator and took on trying to work on growing their sales and marketing really around managed services and things like that. So that kind of got me, I'd been working for Bay Area companies pretty much my whole career, so I kind of went super local in Portland. I'd been living in Portland up to that point, almost 20 years. And so did that and really learned a ton. Learned a ton about services and working with the team and working within a small business, all the pros and cons on that, and really appreciate that company giving me the opportunity to be there and learn and grow. And eventually just wasn't working out. So I had earlier this year the opportunity to do something different, and I said, now is the time. So let's go start something from zero, with me and a couple other business partners. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think first I kind of want to talk about the more mental piece of that. I mean, you've had various I mean, within the same industry of sales, management, and all that. I mean,
Yeah.
like, successful your whole life. What kind of was the trigger point or the thought process of, okay, I've had all this, success within other companies? Like, I mean, that's kind of more of an ego kind of, not an ego thing, but like, it's in danger a little bit, right? Because everyone, your friends, your family, they know you as like, oh, you're a successful guy for this way.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Now I'm going to start this thing on my own. Like, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Like, I don't know. Like, what was your thought process going through that?
Well, I think I had, and one of my early mentors, he joked and said, field sales is kind of like being a wuss entrepreneur. Like, you get all freedom, you kind of run your business, but you're not really out on your own. So I think, and my dad, even in his journey, he started his own organization. So I feel like it's always been in there. And, I guess I didn't look at it as been successful in one thing and why go start something else. It was really more, what do I want to be doing in life? Right? I've got all this experience, made all these relationships, done all these things. I don't necessarily I did look at totally getting out of technology and doing something totally different. And I just came back and be like, but I've invested. Right? And it's an interesting space. It's always changing. And so I guess I looked at it more of, do I have what it takes to do it? Versus, what am I giving up? It was really, do I have, and am I ready to make the jump to go try this? And I think that's the thing, is it's trying it. Like, it may succeed, it may not, but I think whatever, my experience has taught me, like, hey, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I'm pretty confident it will, just given my experience and what I have. So I guess it was more just, I needed life to kind of put the situation to just say, I needed the push at the end of the day. But it had always been there. I mean, Dad and I had talked about trying to do something, so it's always just kind of been there under the surface. Just needed a little bit of the hand to get me to the right spot. I was listening to, I can't remember what it was the other day, and it had a great quote, and it said, I'd rather have a life of oh wells than a life of what ifs. So, and when you talk, and people interview people when they're kind of at their last stages of their life, and what did you learn? What would you want to do different? And I mean, all of them are like, I would want to work less at whatever I was doing, enjoy myself more, take more risks, like, go out on my own, do my own thing, travel more. I mean, it's always just these like crazy things that, like, in the moment it's really hard to do, but I feel like looking back, you'd be like, oh, I wish I would have, done what you're doing. So in hindsight, you probably look back on this, be like, that was, regardless of the outcome, it was an awesome experience. Super glad that I did that. And then probably be better off, I think that's definitely, it was like, if I'm gonna do it, it's now. And I want to look back and say I tried it. Genuinely. And there's a book called The Entrepreneur's Roller Coaster by Darren Hardy that I read, and it is a daily roller coaster. And every day I'm like, what am I doing? But then you kind of play it forward and see the movie out. Where do you want to be? And I think that ultimately gets into, where do you want to be? I mean, all those begin, Stephen Covey, begin with the end in mind. Where do I want to be at the end of the life, and look back and say, these are the things I did with my time here. And I think that's really what, this is the reason I did it, and just needed a little push to go make it happen. So then, North by Northwest Technologies. Correct. Current company. What do you guys do? How's that kind of related to what you did before? Like, what does that all play within the technology landscape? I think that the easiest way to describe it is just IT services and consulting. So infrastructure, information technology services and consulting, for the folks that don't know it. We've got, we think we have a unique model in the way we're approaching how we work with clients. But at the end of the day, it's myself and two other business partners. We've been doing this for a while, and we have some very strong convictions about how we want to work with clients and help them deliver on their outcomes and make them successful, because technology is complex. And it's difficult, and there's lots of different vendors and noise, and I don't think that is getting any less. No, definitely not. I mean, I feel like it's anymore. I mean, you see it kind of in the TV landscape, and you see it also with, different software packages, especially now with AI. It's like, most people don't really have like cable TV anymore, but they've got like Netflix and Hulu and HBO Max and Amazon. So maybe by the time you like
aggregate all those together, it's kind of like you're just building your own cable.
I would say more than any point in my life, what we've been doing in technology and specifically IT, we're supporting IT leaders who are providing infrastructure and services for their clients. Like your personal life and what is happening at your work from it, so close.
Yeah.
Like all the subscription madness, right? Internet, speeds, like all this kind of stuff. Like how do you manage that at home? Like now you've got services to manage your subscriptions, right? All those sorts of things. You can go get virtual cards, ghost cards to manage your subscriptions. So all sorts of crazy stuff, right? So I think it's definitely more intertwined than it ever has been. But the whole point of it is it's complex, and when you look at IT leaders, they still have to lead and manage people. And so our job is really how can we help them navigate. Our tagline is navigate what's next, little nautical theme there. But how do we help them navigate? How do we help them break through the complexity? How do we help them understand the vendor landscape and really be an advocate, be an agent for them in that world?
Yeah. What size of business are you guys working with? Is it more mom and pop shops, kind of medium range? What do you guys target?
Yeah, so we're really in the mid-market and really focusing on, probably more of the regulated space, multi-site organizations. That's really where I think we can provide the most benefit. Now, we'll help anybody who needs help. We'll definitely have a conversation. But really, I think where we focus and bring our most values in that mid-market, regulated, multi-site organizations.
So you go in, say that I reach out to you guys, or you reach out to me and I say, yeah, we should have a meeting, and I want to work with you guys to figure out how you can help me. I guess what is from day 1 to day 90, what's kind of your guys' roadmap for what you look at first, what you want to help and look into, and kind of what's the outcome that you guys hope to achieve when working with customers?
Well, I think if we start with the outcome in mind, really we're looking for a long-term partnership where we can really help guide these clients to achieve the outcomes they need to hit on, right? So I know those are a lot of buzzwords out there, but I think that really is what is a long-term plan, and then really you just kind of work backwards. What are the immediate needs, whether it's right now, in a year, and we just start mapping what are those challenges, because I don't want to get into all the jargon there, but whatever the existing project is, or even it's like, hey, I just don't know if I'm looking at the right thing. Like I've got a bunch of these different quotes, like what is real. So I think it is sitting down, and that's what is so refreshing on why we want to do this from my side, is that we kind of get to go in there with somewhat of the old school whiteboard where we actually went in and did that stuff and said, hey, where are the bottlenecks, where are the challenges, and then let's just start putting a plan together to work that backwards and then go from there. But the goal is to develop that long-term partnership where we're really advising long-term.
Yeah. What have you seen as the most common issue that businesses have when they come to you guys? They're like, we need help with this.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is always a tool or a technology, but really you kind of pull it back. There's still a people component to it, whether that's you just need more bodies, or you need somebody to come in and help you do a service. I do think a lot of it is just the operational workflow, right, and internal expectations. So there's a lot of stuff. Again, even when you look at how clients, and I can speak only from a technology perspective, there's just a lot more people involved in these sorts of decisions too. So I think it's just trying to understand what are all the needs of all the different business groups, right? And truly trying to understand how that all unpacks. Because unless you can figure out how that all works together internally and all the stakeholders and what do they need, then you can actually determine what is it that you need. Do you need a tool? Do you need a service? Do you need more people? And then we kind of go down the path from there. So, I think that's always kind of the big E on the archery, but sometimes it's like, hey, we need this thing, right? Great. But when you kind of pull it back, I think, and I would say, especially in information technology, because the focus is really more on, uptime and risk mitigation and things like that, it's not a revenue driver, they're always fighting against budgets. Right? Always fighting against do more with less. Mm-hmm. To me, it's the ultimate do more with less. They're always being asked to deliver more services, more uptime, more client, their customer experience, but hey, you actually spend a little less. So I think there's a lot of how do you do that in the most efficient way. So I can keep going, but we'll stop.
No, that's a great segue. We talk a lot about AI on the show, and how it affects people, and I think you kind of said it, it's like, and that's kind of the ultimate tool that people are like, oh, do more with less. I can do a subscription to Claude for $100 a month or whatever, and I can do the job of like, 3 developers or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the exact ratio is, but I mean, how is that, first of all, how is that affecting how you guys do your own work? And then when you're advising clients, I mean, I'm sure that's a question you get asked on the daily of like, are we doing enough with AI? Or like, how do we integrate AI? Or like, how do we think about this? Like, blah, blah, blah. I mean, like, where do you guys kind of stand as like, in people's eyes, like the experts of technology and, frontier tech and AI, like all that stuff? Like, what's your response when people ask that?
You just want to give them a blank stare.
You just like did.
No. I think there definitely is AI fatigue already.
Oh, yeah.
I think that, oh man, it's such a big topic. Which, by the way, I think when you threw this out to me, I actually just cut and paste the questions and threw it into AI and had AI answer it for. I was just going to read them out. Well, this is what the bots said. I think that, here's another interesting thing. I genuinely believe that because of where we're at technology-wise, I am more confident to go start my own company.
It makes it easier. I mean, they at least make you think that you can do it, right? Because it's like, oh, we have this tool that can replace this person. We have this tool that can do this, and this one's going to replace all your marketing, and this person you can develop a whole website, and blah, 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 blah. But I'd be interested to get your thoughts on like, okay, you can, but maybe not everyone can, because there still needs to be a driver, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can't replace yourself.
Yeah, so I listened to a few of yours, and I know one of the guys was talking about, I think in the media side, like, hey, AI just gives you the finished product, so you don't get to work with it in between. I think there's all sorts of stuff, but when I think about, and again, man, it's such a broad topic. You even talk about, hey, you just said, hey, someone's got Claude. If you're a security person, you're like, wait a minute, what, some random person in my company has got Claude? Like, that's a total security risk, cybersecurity risk. Yeah. Like, there's all sorts of compliance and risk frameworks that people need to develop around AI, which is a totally boring topic. Some love it, but for most people, you're like, wait. But it brings a whole bunch of different things in there. So, to me, everybody's using it. It's not a question of everybody's using it. Yeah. The question is how, what's the impact, where is it most impactful? I think what I've seen, and I think this is true getting back to automating processes. To me, this is the next step of automation, right? Where it's a little bit more. I just was working with a tool that I bought the other day, and just being able to interact almost like a live chat to figure things out, super helpful for me, right? And I think based on who you are, type of personality you are, what you do for work, depends on how you're going to leverage AI. The other piece too is a lot of it is getting built into the things that we have, right? Yeah. It's not even like, hey, I go to ChatGPT or I go to Claude. It's just, this is now built into whatever the thing that is that I have. So I think that's the other interesting piece is, it's not something I go to, it's just something that is native in whatever it is that I'm using. Even
in, for people that maybe aren't as AI savvy, or maybe they've written off AI as like, oh, I don't do that. I mean, even when you Google search, I mean, there's not even an option. I heard the other day, it's like, you have the option to turn that off, but it's still not turning off the process of the system doing it. So whether or not you're seeing it, like, you can get rid of that and just, go back to the old school links and whatever, but the system will automatically give you that, whether you have it as a visual or you blow it away.
Yeah. I'm pretty much, I'm in the camp of things are new, and, we get scared of things, right? Just in life, right? Something new, something different. Again, the industrial revolution, right? Cars came, what do we do with carriages and buggies, right? I mean, there is this cycle of technology that happens in the internet, right? Big one. All sorts of different things that they're new, they're scary. How is it going to disrupt? Because it does. And I think the challenge that we all have currently sitting is the rate of disruption in our lives is immense. Compared to daily. And it's insane. And so I think whether you look at just how we consume information, I think that's, to me, is really the underlying issue is, I think everybody is just like, I don't know what to depend on tomorrow. And now you got this thing coming along saying it's going to take away jobs, my financial security, right? So I think there is a lot to it. I do think there's some, really just daily and just super practical things. So again, you kind of have the super practical versus how are how's the government using AI? How are corporations using it, right? Like, how are new developers as they're building things using AI? So I think it's such a complex issue, but I really encourage people, and I do think that the worst thing to do, in my opinion, is to ignore it. You have to learn a little bit, and you have to figure it out, and you have to figure out how it can work for you.
Yeah, because you do have those camps too, right? And I think a lot of people are aware of that, of like, you have this camp over here where maybe they were previous software developers or they work in tech or whatever, and they're like all in, right? They're like automating their houses, they're automating their everything. Everything's AI, they're just using it all. And then you have like this camp over here that's maybe less tech enabled, and they're like writing off all tech. They're like, I used to have a TV, get rid of that. I used to have my phone, get rid of that. I'm gonna move to the woods and I'm gonna build a log cabin and I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, and I think then there's like most things, there's most of us that are in the middle.
Right.
That I think that it's very reasonable to get educated on how is it impacting, what is it impacting, and just say, okay, how can I understand it? Maybe this is just interpersonal relationship. How can I understand that other person, where they're coming from? I think that's super important because it is pretty disruptive and it is going to change things. It has changed things. So, but I'm not, I don't a tech maven and know what the future is going to hold and what that is. It's just more, I think what I see and I think honestly, at least a lot of folks I talk about, we're way beyond, companies, how to use it. Or if we should use it, it's how we're using it,
right.
How are we governing it, how are we protecting ourselves, how are we making sure that from an organization everybody's using the same tools, we're protected, our IP is protected, all those sorts of things, and then going from there.
I think a lot of that pressure too is coming from shareholders, because they're looking at, hey, this company over here is using it, and look at their sales have been bumped up the last quarter, their inbounds or whatever. Like, how are we doing that? Like, what are we going to do? It's kind of this like FOMO effect of like
happened in COVID, right?
Yeah.
Like the work from home, like everybody. There's a lot of companies got a pretty big stock bump because of that. Because hey, it's like we're seeing this success, and I would say that we're pretty short-term based on that quarter gains daily. Like, hey, are we going up or down? So let's make our decision on that. And it's like, hey, they're doing it. You look at it in they're doing it. Well, let's go copy that, which isn't always a bad thing.
No.
I think it's just there are always nuances to it.
Yeah. What aspects of it do you think are underrated, and what aspects of it do you think are a little bit overrated? That maybe people are having too much of a glass is half full perspective.
Well, that's a good question. Underrated. I do think I think it's kind of I do think we are still underrating it for how it can benefit our lives, both from a personal and work perspective, just on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
I do think there are definitely, and maybe that's just, I'll speak a little bit personally because it helps me a lot in a day-to-day basis. But I also think too that, that's underrated, but I do think I do believe it's overrated that, hey, we're not gonna have any jobs anymore, and we've got, like, it's all gonna go away. Like, just history has not shown us that is the case. So I do think, again, it's those extremes that it's not going to take away everybody's job, but it definitely is changing a lot of things. So I think about it more as instead of a taking away, instead of kind of that zero-sum game, there's only so much of a pie, it's just changing things. Yeah. And I think that I would encourage people that even from a personal level, and I know there's the whole environmental impact, the data center, and people have other concerns with that, but to me, there are a lot of good use cases that I think can help you do things more effectively in life by doing that. If you're interested in that, which I'm super interested in how it be more effective, and maybe that's why I love it.
Yeah. Are there any specific tools that you use that immediately when you're consulting clients and they're not using those tools, you're like, okay, this is an easy kind of first step to like dip your toes into the AI realm? Or are you seeing that most of the companies you're working with are like, okay, this is our stack, this is what we're using already, like, is there anything that we're missing here? Do we need to get rid of things, or is there anything that we can kind of combine? Like, how does that work?
Well, I think, so for me, working with, IT organizations, a lot of it is around, my focus has been more on infrastructure and things like that. So you look at Microsoft as a big, and, Microsoft's Copilot. Yeah. And so a lot of people in figuring out how to use it, is the cost worth it, right? Because it is more expensive. So, but again, I do think that from an IT perspective, maybe we're a group that's a little bit farther ahead than most.
Sure.
And I would say, again, a lot of the tools that people have been using have started to integrate it Meaning like if I have an ERP or a CRM, right, whether it's, a NetSuite or a Salesforce or whatever that is, I mean, they're just bringing AI agents and bots into their platforms already. So again, I think people are just beginning to consume it that way. It's not that I have to bring in a specific tool to do AI. It's really leveraging what my current vendors and tech stack are doing, and how to. Now, Claude may be something different. I mean, Claude's clearly has been a disruptor for a lot of things, especially when you're doing code and things like that. So, for a personal, like, hey, do you want your employees going to ChatGPT, using Claude, Copilot for some of that personal stuff that they're doing? I think that's one thing to look at. But again, a lot of the applications that people are already using have just started to integrate it. So that it's just, how do we harness that? And then I will get back for all my cybersecurity friends out there, like, what are we doing to govern? What's the risk? What's the compliance? That's really, I think, what companies have to continue more to deal with.
What are some of the biggest risks when in those kind of mid-tiered companies, when like some employees are using AI or like they're trying to integrate it? I mean, what are the risks in general that, what does that look like?
I think at the end it's pretty basic. When we talk about cybersecurity, the bad guys are always a step ahead. And now they're using bots to come out. So I think when you start having folks, and I've been a culprit of this, like, oh, it's great, I'm just going to go use this. And, sales and marketing, IT comes like, what are you doing? Oh, sorry, I forgot to let you know. So I think that is just, it really does. It's kind of like, let's think about your house, right? It's opening a window. It's opening a door. It's creating a attack, what they call, an attack surface area that a bad guy can get into. So when you're doing that outside of what, the governance policies and controls and multi-factor authentication, things like that, when you start to do that, you just increase that risk. You start opening up different doors that people can get into, unlocking them. And I think, and that really is the risk, because they can get, whether it's personal information, financial information, they can be able to get in and then go somewhere else within the organization based on what you allowed them to go do. So that's the best way that I can, kind of describe on what that risk is.
It is pretty, I wouldn't say scary is the word, but I guess scary. Like when you're, especially, have you used Cowork at all in Claude? So you're literally giving it access to like specific folders, or like, look at this, or look at this, because like the whole thought process is of like, I'm sure there's more complicated things you can do, but it's like, hey, clean up this folder for me, like put it into this, or like organize this, whatever. But it's also like, hey, look into these folders, there's a bunch of PDFs in here, I need specific information off of all of these, like go in there, look at it, read them, find it, report back to me.
And chief information security has is just like turn it over, right? Which you're probably going to get a lot of comments about, what are these two yahoos talking about cybersecurity on this podcast? We're probably going to get a lot. But yes, that's 100%. Like, you are just opening up to not just you, but now your organization. Like IP, financial information. I mean, it is a little scary when you play it forward.
It's pretty wild. It's crazy. And the aspect you have like the Claude plugin on Chrome, and then it just like takes over your computer, and it's like, here's this website, like, I need this and this and this, like do this, and I'm gonna go do something else, and you like watching it, like taking screenshots, like doing stuff, clicking into things, like filling out information, like all this stuff. Wild. I know, it's crazy.
And I think in some ways too, like, again, to me, this is like science fiction come to life.
It's crazy. I mean, it's just in the last couple months. I mean, we started off with ChatGPT, like, I'd say like,
and who's
back in the day, like the division, the Cowles Ventures. As kind of like a...
And make sure you don't get in trouble on this podcast either.
No, for sure. No, everyone's knowing what we're doing. So because we're, we have to be in the know on like, what is happening? I mean, if we're going out there and looking at businesses and they're like, hey, we're using this new tool, and I'm like, I've never even heard of that. And they're like, oh, you're an idiot, like, we don't want to, be part of it or whatever. So when all this first started coming out, we're like, reading articles, we're doing this, we're like, let's like try it. And we'll just do like, rewrite my email, or like, I'm gonna do this. And it's like so rudimentary, and even that thinking back is like a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. To now of like, we're building full models, we're like having it build apps, we're like it's like in everything that we do now. It's crazy just like how quick it all has evolved, and especially the differences of like ChatGPT versus like Claude versus like Gemini, and like all those things of like, to me, like Claude kind of just came out of nowhere. It was like all the coders, everyone was like, dude, forget everything else, because this is the one you're going to want to use. And I mean, yeah, I think it is a little bit scary because they kind of just open up the floodgates a little bit on like, yeah, we made this, it should work for like pretty much everything you want to do, like use it for however you want to use it and like get back to us and we'll like keep iterating it, where I think the other ones have kind of, you know, they're attached to bigger organizations, so they're making it a little bit less open doors. There's a lot more like policies and procedures and testing and all this stuff. And I don't know. I mean, I'm speaking out of turn here, but to me, it seems like the people at Anthropic and Claude were just like, no, let's just like see what happens, you know? Like, it's just go crazy. I don't know.
And you know, you mentioned, right, different use cases for different, you know, AI platform.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, it does seem like chat is, you know, doing a little bit more on the corporate side, trying to build those partnerships where Anthropic is saying, hey, we're going to kind of do our own thing and how they've gone. So again, you just kind of see how these things start to play out. But again, you know, I need to get more involved with Claude and what it's doing for a small business trying to start up what we can go do. But you know, I do think about what you're saying. It's like, man, that is amazing. Now, some people look at that and be like, it's horrible to take a job. Like again, so it's so the perspective of where you're at on whether you think that is a positive or a negative.
Yeah.
But, and again, to your point, a year ago to even now, like the pace, the rate of change.
That was insane. Yeah. I don't know, obviously, what's going to happen in the next couple of years, whatever, but I think so far it's made it extremely hard for, and especially on the development side, when people are like, okay, we have a team of, you know, mid-tier to like senior developers. Do we really want to hire like more junior developers? You kind of have to like walk through this stuff, or do we really just want to have like the maxed out codex plan for these guys and just let them go nuts, and they can have like 8 AI agents they're all in charge of, and it's like overall does that cost us less than hiring, you know, some meta junior developers for like $300,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that affects higher ed and college and all that stuff. But
100% agree. Education is staring down some pretty interesting things right now.
Yeah.
I will say too, just because you can, should you? And I think I think that's the decision that companies need to make. Just because we could do this, is that the best thing long term for our organization? I think the challenge is how long term are we all thinking these days? But I look at it and be like, well, yeah, we could go do that, but then we aren't developing people, and if we believe that people still matter, hopefully that's still the case for a lot of companies, then we need to balance that, right? We need to say, hey, yes, we can do that for some, but we're still going to make an investment here, because to have that person that eventually does that, we want to grow that individual versus going and hiring that somewhere else, because it's always more cost effective to grow internally, right? Farm system versus go hire externally. So when you look at the cost on that, like what does it cost to go hire these people fully baked, or bring them in, train them up, right? Longer term. So I think that's how you have to look at it as well.
for sure, I think if you're looking at it as a 20-year, 30-year, 50-year view, you start doing that, what they're currently doing, some companies, and 20 years, when those people retire or whatever, and you're left with what, a bunch of AI bots with no one to tell them what to do, and then what do you do?
Some people think that'd be great. Other people are like, I don't know.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Gosh, no, it is absolutely insane.
I would agree, and I think that is also the other reality is, I mean, there's some big disruptors that we're staring at with what this is. I mean, this is 1984, right? This is Orwell. This is all of that science fiction coming in, like, Terminator. Like, I mean, you think about all that, and so I think that's what also is just, I think is probably, I would say, more scary than a lot of technology advances on what this is doing. Because again, to your point, well, when do our people gone, right? You got China developing some crazy robots, like we're way behind in the U.S. on the robot stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So I think I don't want to downplay the impact that it has. I just think that the best way to deal with that is to be educated to a level, figure out how it makes sense for you, and keep looking at the long term.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
As now kind of running your own business and entrepreneur mode and all that, I mean, like, what's been the hardest part of doing all this, coming from the background that you've had?
Yeah. First, I got to give a shout out to my business partners, Sarah Good, Bryce Callison, right? Like, I think that's one thing.
Team helps. For sure.
100%. Yeah. It is. And, there's always challenges that we're working on. We've known each other for a while, especially me and Sarah, we go way back. But then when you start working together in this environment, like, you you got to learn how to do it all over again. So shout out to them, and then can you repeat that question because I totally got off track.
No, you're fine. Yeah, what's been the hardest part of starting up your own business and kind of being full ownership of everything that's going on with the business?
Yeah, I think it's slow. There's just a lot of questioning. I think to me, truthfully, it's not anything like just takes time to get your EIN number and get set up a vendor, do all that kind of stuff, and start getting the your outbound motion going and start building the pipeline and doing things like that. I think it really is just the emotional impact of no income, right? Like, and again, we're bootstrapping this thing. We're not going for funding, that sort of stuff. So I think those are really like the the imposter syndrome. Hey, can we do this? Are we really do? I think those are the hard things that I think when you wake up in the morning, you got to get through, right? You got to say, hey, we can go do it, right? And then just do the other, I guess I'll say technical things. Just do the things that have to happen to get the revenue to make the business successful and go hire people and things like that. So I feel at this stage, the hardest thing has just been, oh man, what are we doing? This is hard. Like, oh no, I'm used to the steady paycheck. Like, talking with my wife on a weekly, sometimes daily basis, hey, you doing okay? We doing okay? Like, I think those are the things that are the hardest parts, that emotional piece of being an entrepreneur. Yeah. At least that's the one I'm finding.
Yeah, no, that's fair. What do you do to kind of cope and ground yourself? When you meditate, journal?
No, I pray a lot. Yeah. No, I pray a lot, and I think for me, faith is a big part of that. I think genuinely having partners, talking with people. Yeah. Like for me, I'm a very verbal person. Like I know some people wouldn't. This is not their cup of tea. I would rather do this than sit down and write a paper. Like I just So I think talking to people, and I do think for me, action. Right, not getting stuck on just do the next thing. Yeah. Take the next step. However hard it is, don't get stuck in. I do know what to do. Like do it. If it isn't the answer I want, that's okay. You just have to do the things, right? The process, right? They came up with follow the process, do the process, right? Just do the process and magic will happen. Well, I don't know if that's the case, but I do think there is some truth in you gotta have the plan, follow it, adjust it, but just take those steps each day. For me, really leaning into, my relationship with Jesus and just that and working with my wife, talking with people, I think those are the ways you get through it, so. Yeah,
no, it definitely helps. That's kind of why we're building Fuel, right, upstairs and down here is like, hey, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that start off like, I've got this crazy idea, I'm going to do it, I'm going to run with it, and then they get, a couple months down the road and it's like, wow, this is pretty lonely, there's nobody else here, and it helps too, right, because you're in your head, you're like, hey, this is a really good idea, or maybe this is a really bad idea, and then you bring in somebody else, and they're like, oh no, it's a horrible idea, you should do it this way, or like, hey, that bad idea that you thought you had is actually I think that's got legs. Yeah. What if you thought about it this way? So I think having that kind of community, collaborative environment, it's huge for, anywhere you look at San Francisco, why it's gotten so big, it's like you have such a density of everyone, and they're all focused on the exact same thing of growing their business, and it's tech focused and all that, but I think you see that in communities that kind of struggle with that. I would argue that's probably the one thing that you're missing is just sheer density and community around that one specific thing. Because if you don't have that, really hard to get stuff up and running.
Yeah, you got to find your tribe, right? You got to find people that believe. And I would say too, I'm a guy who generally, I know what I'm doing and I want to go do it. And I think stepping into this, this is probably the most open I've been in my life to, what do I do? Here's my idea, get something else. So I think that's the other piece of being an entrepreneur, the community, but you got to be open to be like, hey, what's the best way to do it? What's a different way to do it? Because you can get stuck pretty quickly. So I think, I'm blessed to have a couple partners to do this with. If you're a sole entrepreneur, definitely go find community, find a tribe, find people that you can talk to, bounce ideas off with, then do all that kind of stuff. Right?
Yeah. How do you think building this in Spokane is a benefit, and how do you think about it as maybe a con? If you were building it over in Seattle or down in Palo Alto or wherever else, do you think about that at all, or is it kind of like you guys are good and you're growing it here for a specific reason?
Yeah. Well, one, pre-COVID versus post-COVID makes a difference, I think, for sure. It's just more spread out. I would say in tech, though, in general, location has never really mattered. Yeah. At least as far as I've been involved with it. And again, we're not building a product or platform, so it might be a little different. We're not looking for really ours is more, relationship based and finding solutions and building partnerships and doing things like that. I think, truthfully, one of the reasons I'm doing this is because we did move to Spokane. Because, just to be fair, it's a little bit different geography-wise, and I didn't want to travel the world or the U.S., and so I think this is like, Spokane made it feasible for me to do that, just based on where we're at, to say, hey, this is the time to go do it. But, we really focus in the Pacific Northwest, and we can kind of do that everywhere. So I think what's interesting enough, I've gotten connected super quickly. We moved here not quite a year ago to the business community.
Okay.
Right? Shout out to Richard over at Vistage, right? Like those sorts of things, and just getting connected with folks like you. Yeah. And I will say in Seattle and Portland, that is not the case.
Harder to get plugged in.
Oh, so much harder. So much harder. So I think for me, in giving me confidence and talking with other people and already getting connected with other entrepreneurs that are doing this before I decided to step into it, has been a super, super beneficial thing. And not something that I anticipated, right? We're just kind of provided that. So I think that definitely has made it better.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely.
I'm just crazy impressed with how much we got here. Like I don't know. There's angel investing in Portland and things like that, but I never ran into. Now, granted, I wasn't trying to start my own thing, but just the open. And I will say, the openness that I've seen from a lot of folks just here in Spokane, moving from Portland, just to at least have that initial conversation. Hey, how you doing? How can I help you? What can I do? Get you connected? Things like that. So it's been pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think as we kind of wrap this up here, I have a couple rapid fire questions.
Okay, all right, here we go.
All right, so top one, feel free to take your time on this one. What is a belief that most people will disagree with that you have?
I don't think you should try to be happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Elaborate.
I just think that happiness is, to me, and again, this is how I define it, is very circumstantial, and it doesn't seem to have a lot of depth to me, right? I think about being fulfilled, being content, spending my time wisely. Yeah, if I'm happy, great, but happy's fleeting. Like, why do I want to go for something that's fleeting? I want something that is deep, impactful, and long-lasting. And to me, just happiness is the wrong goal.
Okay. I like it. Okay. If you're going to go back and give one piece of advice to your 25-year-old self, what would that be?
Get better grades. No.
Study harder.
I think it's a level apply. I do remember thinking about this one, and I had some notes on there. I do think just again, not that I haven't done that, but I think embracing where you are, doing your best in whatever that is, and then I think opportunities will come if that's what you want, and you'll be able to do that. But I think you have to do well where you're at, instead of always looking to the next. And that's, I guess, maybe my personality, because I'm definitely what's on the next thing, what's on the next thing.
I think a lot of people, right? And it's kind of the culture that we're involved in, and you're looking at, especially with social media and Instagram and TikTok and whatever, it's like, oh, well, he's got, I might have gotten this house, he's got a bigger house, or I might have just gotten this car, he's got a Ferrari, or, I
keeping up with the Joneses.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
It's like you're seeing all these, like, especially it's just like with YouTubers and everything, it's just they're getting younger and younger and younger. So then people in high school are like, okay, well, I'm just like a normal, like, high school kid, like, I don't have it. And you're looking at, whoever that's like, oh, I got $3 million off this, and this kid's like 14, and you're like, what the hell? Like, what is going on?
Yeah, and I think that is that. Yeah, because everybody's situation is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Right, and I think being born in the United States, we have an unfair advantage to a lot of the world.
Because you don't see, like, the majority of what's going on, right? You're seeing, like, pockets of Hollywood, pockets of Miami, pockets of New York, or whatever. But you're not looking at, like, rural Zimbabwe of, like, what the heck's going on over there. Like,
just go downtown Portland or downtown Spokane.
Right,
right?
Just go to your neighborhood.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting. Like, I feel like poverty is much more obvious to us, and we don't like it.
Yeah.
Right? And there's always a story there.
Yeah.
Right? So, but I think getting back to just do the best that you can where you're at, and that's what you should focus on. And I think those opportunities will happen or not happen, but the best you can do where you're at. If it's, as they say, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing well.
Yeah. If someone is listening to this and you want them to take away one thing from our conversation, what would that be?
call North by Northwest Technology. No, I'm just kidding.
Little plug.
Little plug. I mean, yeah, no. Man, that is. I think that I don't know if there's one thing that I want them to get out. I just hope that there is something. So actually, I'll back up on that. Now that I stumble my way through talking through that. I definitely hope that people are encouraged. I think that I can sometimes be, gruff and direct, but I do believe that it is important to love and encourage others. And I think that one of the great things about where the time and space we live in is we have a lot of access to a lot of content and a lot of things. So hopefully someone who is listening to this is encouraged in their personal life to, be better. I think I'm definitely, I like trying to take advantage of the time that we have here on Earth, however long or short that is. And so hopefully this encourage somebody to do something that will better themselves, that, that will help them love whoever it is in their life that they need to love. But I mean, I think that ultimately is hopefully it's encouragement to someone wherever they need it.
Love that. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Joel, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and enlightening us on all things tech.